How's it going, everybody? CJ here, back with another video. We're doing a deck tech request today. So I messed up on the last one. It was supposed to be like pick an artist and do a tribal deck around that artist as opposed to making artist tribal. So I'm redoing it here. We're doing Kev Walker tribal in this video. Before we hop into that though, remember, hit the subscribe button if you haven't already. We're so close to 1,000. We're going to have a giveaway once we hit it. So hit the subscribe button, like this video, and comment down below what I should do for my next deck tech request. I already actually have one on deck, but give me more ideas. That way I have some more for the future. And what else we got? Oh, in the link down, or in the description down below, you'll find a link to the deck list. And you will also find a link to everything that I have for social media. You'll find my Twitch, Twitter, my Discord if you want to chat with us. You can hop into the Patreon if you want to support the channel. Also a TCG player affiliate link to support the channel. And my personal store if you want to buy a playmat or something like that. And I have some cards on there, but not enough yet. Very low inventory still. And what else is in there? We got the MTG Content Creators Awards. Nominate me for best new, or not best new, best small YouTube channel. And check out the TikTok. It's been blowing up. So thank you guys. Anybody here from TikTok? Comment down below to let me know that you came from TikTok so I know that's working. And we're going to hop into this. Kev Walker Tribal. So, I was originally going to do Seb McKinnon Tribal, but the only option that he had, the only legendary commander that he had was, Aminatu. And there just wasn't enough support inside the other cards that he did. Like, color-wise, I would really have to be digging at the bottom of the barrel with some vanilla commons and stuff like that to really be doing it. And also, he's only done, like, Swamp as a basic land. He hasn't done the other basic lands, so it doesn't really work. So I decided to do Kev Walker Tribal because he's got a lot of art and magic, and I was actually able to build what looks like a very playable deck. Like, I think it's probably... it's probably around pre-con level, maybe a little bit below pre-con level, but it seems pretty fun. And we got Shattergang brothers as the commander of this deck, and I'm excited to do this. So we're going to start off with the creatures. There's 37 creatures in this deck, and I'm just going to go right down the list CMC-wise and explain why each card's in the deck. First up, we got Land of War Elves, ramp. We got Sanitarium Skeleton. This card's actually really powerful in the deck because you can sack it to Shattergang Brothers super easily and bring it back over and over and over again. So it's just very recursive and it's very helpful in that matter. You got Badoka Gardener, which starts off as ramp and then creates tokens that you can sacrifice. You got Copper Mirror, you got Iron Mirror, and you got Leaden Mirror, which are mana dorks. But what's nice about them is that if you're got enough mana, you can sacrifice them to Shattergang Brothers as either an artifact or a creature. So you can kind of hit either or depending on what you need to do. So that's a really good synergy there, actually. It's a nice little add-on to also just being decent mana dorks. You got Foul Imp. It enters the battlefield. Oh, you lose 2 life. Oh, that's actually a lot worse than I thought. Foul Imp is going to be switched out with something else, but nothing that's worth talking about probably, because this is one of the last cards I added. It actually might just get switched out for a land. I don't think I have... Yeah, I got 36 lands. Scratch Foul Imp, it's a mountain. We got Golgari Thug, which seems fantastic in the deck. You can recur whatever you need to after you sacrificed it. Also, it's sacrificable to Shattergang Brothers, and then you can dredge it back to your hand if you need to and fill your graveyard that way for some more shenanigans. Like, this card just seems very good in the deck. You got Crawl Harpooner. You're going to have a lot of cards in your graveyard most likely, so this thing's going to be able to blow up any flyer. And it's also just, like, a decent card. So you play it, you kill a flyer, and then you sacrifice it, and everyone has to sack a creature. That's good. It's value. There's a lot of creatures that just have, like, an ETB, like, low CMC creatures or something like that as an ETB that you can sacrifice and get extra value off of. You got Pack Rat. Make a bunch of tokens. If you get mana swamped, then you can discard lands and make rats, and that seems pretty decent. You can sack those if you need to. You got Viridian Zealot. It's actually a pretty decent removal spell for artifacts or enchantments. So it's also a sacrifice outlet for Shattergang Brothers. like something to sacrifice. So if you have Shattergang Brothers in play and you play Viridian Zealot, you can either use this thing to blow up an artifact, blow up an enchantment, or make people sacrifice creatures. That seems really, really solid. Like, it's very high utility. Shattergang Brothers is a really good commander for this because it's very high utility and there's a lot of good cards that just synergize with it. Like, it's just great. Like, Geralf's Messenger. It's got Undying, so you can sack this thing twice and get the ETB twice and make your opponent lose 4 life as opposed to 2. That's solid. Lovestruck Beast creates it's a sorcery that creates a creature that you can sacrifice, and then a 3/3 or 5 mana 3-mana 5/5 blocker / attacker if you don't sacrifice a token. It's just a good beater. You could put in work in this deck. You got Orin Viper. It's a decent card draw engine because no one's going to want to block this with anything they care about. And it's a 1/3, so anything they don't care about, they will just kill. And not kill Orin Viper because it's got a pretty decent butt. Decent card draw card right there. You got Priest of Urabrask. Enters the battlefield, you get your mana back, so you can do more with it. So you can play this thing, get your mana back, and use Shattergang Brothers to sacrifice an artifact and blow up a bunch of artifacts. That's not bad. You got Dirgebat, which at its worst, it's a 4-mana 3/3 flash flyer, which could be helpful in a situation, but you're probably going to want to mutate it onto something and mutate it so that way you can just blow up a creature or a planeswalker. I mean, it's just not too shabby removal. We got Hellhole Rats. This is one of those cards that are like, okay, it's just here because it can do some quick things and get sacrificed. It's a 4-mana 2/2 with haste. When it comes into play, target player discards a card and then it deals damage to that player equal to that card's converted mana cost. So it's not the best, but you can sacrifice it and you can get some value off it, and you can't be too picky when you're doing Artist Tribal. Keeper of Progenitus is a really cool ramp card because since you're in Jund, it'll double the mana from your mountains and your forests, and if it's anyone that's playing Naya, then they're just going to be super lucky, but it's solid. It's a solid way to just increase the amount of mana you have by a significant margin and probably increase your mana more than anyone else's. You got Magus of the Abyss, because this deck's going to have a lot of creatures that are okay to sacrifice. And actually, wait. Yeah, there's a lot of creatures that are okay to sacrifice. So at the beginning of your upkeep, you can easily just destroy something that you don't really care about, but you can blow up your opponent's good stuff, which seems really solid. Like, this thing can put in a lot of work. Master of the Wild Hunt gives you a token on your upkeep, and it also can be removal, but it's mostly here for the token creation, so that way you have stuff to sacrifice. You got Migratory Greathorn, a ramp card, pretty much just a ramp card. Mind Slicer, this is something that you can sacrifice to Shattergang Brothers and just get huge benefit of just having everybody discard their hands. And since you're going to be able to use your graveyard at least a little bit, like, there's a good chance that you're going to have a better outcome than most of the other players at the table after doing this. Rot Widow Pack, good way to use the graveyard here. You can exile cards from your graveyard to make tokens and deal damage to everybody for spiders you control. So you can either just slowly amass a big board of spiders or just create tokens that you can use as fodder for Shattergang. It's solid. I like this card a lot, actually. Like, this card is a really good spider. You have Vulturous Aven. You're going to have a lot of tokens and stuff to sacrifice, so you can sacrifice something to this if you need to, and if you do, you get to draw 2 cards and get a 2/3 flyer. It's not bad. Drawing cards is always good. You got Arashi, the Sky Asunder, so that way you can blow up flyers, because flyers are annoying. Deranged Hermit gives you a lot of tokens. I gotta double check something, though, with Deranged Hermit, because... Okay, good. Because it was showing the Vintage Masters version, the Magic Online card, and I just want to make sure it's the same art, and it is. It is, in fact, the same art. So, the Ranged Hermit creates a bunch of tokens that you can sacrifice. It's great. That card's great in this deck. You got Ingot Chewer. It's at its worst. It just 1 mana destroy an artifact. Not bad. It's decent removal there. You got Nath of the Guilt Leaf. Make it so your opponents have to discard cards every turn. and you get tokens out of that, so that way you can sacrifice those tokens. And there's a few other discard effects in the deck, so it synergizes with those, but it's mostly just token creation and disruption. It's not a lot of either of those, but it's enough. You got Siazon, Perverter of Truth. So at the beginning of each player's upkeep, that player loses 2 life and draws 2 cards. So just extra card draw for everybody, which could be interesting. And the life loss is not bad. It's going to help you in the long run. I just think it's a cool card. It's extra card draw. It's hard to find extra card draw in these parameters of Jund Artist Tribal. You got Spirit Monger. This card is just powerful. It's just a powerful creature that can put in some work, and it's got regenerate, so it can stay alive for a while. And it just gets bigger and bigger and bigger, so it doesn't seem too bad. Volshock Battlemaster. This is a card that I have never seen played, and it's not very great, but in the right meta, this thing is just a hoser, and this could be really cool. So, and actually, like, there's a lot of people that play equipment. So this thing enters the battlefield, you attach all equipment to it. If someone's got like a Lightning Greaves and somebody else has got like, I don't know, a Hammer and Nazan, then you can just smack somebody really hard, really quickly, just right off the bat with this thing. It can put in some work. It's cool. It's a cool card. I like it. It's just an interesting little tech card. Next up, we got Inferno Titan, because it's just a big creature. You need a top end, so this is going to add to that top end, and it can bolt a bunch of things and deal a lot of damage around. Oop, I did not mean to do that. In addition to that top end, you got Nessian Wild's Ravager. At its worst, it's a 6/6 that kills something, it's either going to be a 6/6 that kills something or a 12/12. So either or, it's not too bad. Viscera the Dreadful, just removal on a stick, seems decent in the deck. Yeah, Crows and Tusker, literally in here as ramp. It is a ramp card, but in late game you can also use it as a 6/5. But in a perfect, well, what you really want to be doing this thing though is definitely, it's actually not even ramp. It just puts the land to your hand, but it's fixing, so it's fixing. It draws your card and gets you a land of basic land of your choice. So it's good fixing. It's solid. Patron of the Nezumi. Rat Offering. Whenever a permanent is put into an opponent's graveyard, that player loses 1 life. This seems fantastic in the deck. Like, this is a great card. It's a lot of mana, but if you Shattergang Brothers and you sack something and each opponent sacrifices something, any permanent, if this triggers off any permanent, then each of your opponents is losing a life every time you activate. If they activate a fetch land, they lose a life. An extra life, because they already lose 1 to the fetch. Like, this actually seems like a very, very powerful card in the deck. I like it. It's slowly, like a lot of the cards in this deck are just going to slowly drag your opponent's life totals down. And it seems like an interesting way to win the game. And then the last creature, right? Is the last one? Yeah. We got Seki Season's Guide. So, enters the battlefield with 8+1/+1 counters on it. Whenever damage is dealt to it, prevent that damage and remove that many counters, and you make that many tokens. And you can sacrifice 8 spirits to bring it back from your graveyard to play. It's either you're going to be using this thing as a recursive 8/8 that you can just, I guess, not really sacrifice because it needs to have the damage dealt to it. But it's a recursive 8/8, or you use this thing to make a bunch of tokens. Just keep blocking, chump blocking with this thing. So that way you can just load your board up with tokens and you can sacrifice those. That's what I would probably be doing with this. It's an interesting card. It's kind of like it's not good, but it's not the worst thing you could be doing. Next up, we got 2 Planeswalkers to talk about. We got Chandra Nalaar. It just pings players, which is, I guess, on theme with the slowly draining your opponent's life totals. But it can also just blow up creatures. It starts off with 6 loyalties, so it could be 5 mana, deal 6 damage to a creature, that's at its like worst. And that's not even that terrible. Then you have, if you get it up to 8, then you can -8 and deal 10 damage to a player and all creatures they control, so you can just board wipe somebody with it. It's solid. I think it's not a great Planeswalker, but it's good enough to be played in this deck. And it can definitely put in some work. Like it's a decent removal card. Like it's not the worst removal. The other Planeswalker in the deck, which is significantly better, is Vivian Monster's Advocate. You can got 37 creatures in this deck. You can cast them off the top of your library using this thing. That's literally just card advantage right there. It pumps out tokens that you can sacrifice, and it lets you go and snag creatures out of your deck. This is like perfect for this deck. Great card, great include. Love the fact that I can throw this in here. And I think it's the cool art too. That's Kev Walker, right? Yeah, it's a cool art. So you get to have cool art too. Next up, we got artifacts. A lot of the ramp, as you saw already, is inside the creatures. So there's only one mana rock by Kev Walker, and that is Gruul Locket. So that is going in the deck. Well, one mana rock within the colors going in the deck. And the other artifact is Sword of Light and Shadow, because that is just really perfect for this deck. Because Shattergang Brothers, you're sacrificing things. This is a way to get things back from your graveyard. Like, it's great. It's great. It works super well. Next up, I want to talk about enchantments. And the first one is probably the best enchantment for this deck. And it's just Rancor. Because you can sacrifice Rancor to Shattergang Brothers and it comes back to your hand. It's 1 mana, so you can spend 4 mana just to Shattergang enchantments, basically. Like 4 mana to make your opponents all sacrifice an enchantment. And you can just do that whenever you want to. Well, not whenever you want to, but during your turn, you can do that as many times as you want to. Just 4 mana to do it. Because 1 to play it, 3 to sack it, it goes back to your hand. 1 to play it, 3 to sack it, goes back to your hand. It's good. It's really good in this deck. Next up, we got Evolutionary Escalation. This card can get you friends. You got a little, I don't want to say group hug, political card here. Where you can give your opponent's creatures +++ encounters. So you can be like, hey, I'll give you 3 +++ encounters on your big fat creature with trample if you swinging at that guy. Yeah. Seems good. And you can load up counters on your creatures that you need to have big to protect yourself or to hit people hard. Next up, we got Goblin Slide. There are a lot of creatures in this deck, so it won't be triggering an insane amount. But I think we got 1, 2, 3, 4, 9, 17... 26 non-creature spells, so it's going to be able to do some work. So it's worthwhile throwing in, because you can just make 1/1s. It's just, you pay an extra mana, and you have a token that you can use as fodder. It's great. It seems perfect for this deck. You got Pestilence, just in case. Like, you can just play this and deal a ton of damage if you need to. And the way this deck works, being you're just really slowly ticking down your opponent's life total, this can help with that a lot. Like, you can just, like, every turn, you can do 2, like, put 2 or 3 into this each rotation or each turn even. Keep some creatures on the board and just slowly drain everyone's life totals down. It can do a lot of work in the deck. Next up, we got Preferred Selection. It's going to let you just pick which card you want to draw out of the top 2 of your library. I mean, it's not really extra card draw, but it is selection, and it just helps you smooth out your draws a little better, which is going to be nice. Next up, we got the instants. We have 8 instants to talk about here. The first one being Slaughter Pact. Removal. It's instant speed, 0 mana removal. It's good. That can put in a lot of work if you need to. Like, if you tap out and somebody plays something terrifying, you can get rid of it. Next up, we got Oxidize. Just 1 mana to blow up an artifact. Not too bad. We got Undying Evil. Give a creature Undying until end of turn. So if you want to save something from a board wipe, or if you want to be able to get an extra ETB trigger after you sacrifice something to Shattergang Brothers, it's got some good utility. It seems good in the deck. Destructive Revelry. This is just an artifact or enchantment removal that helps to add to the whole slowly bring your opponent's life totals down by shocking them for 2 damage. Like, whoever controls the artifact or enchantment. That seems decent. You got Psychotic Fury. This way, if you got something big in play, you can get that final blow in with double striking, and also gets you draw a card. So you can just Use it to protect yourself from a big attack by giving double strikes. That way something can kill something that your opponent's attacking you with. Or you can just swing in and get him out of nowhere. Plus just extra card draw, which is not bad. Next up we got Ambuscade. Give your creature +1/+0, and then it deals damage equal to its power to a creature an opponent controls. So it's not a fight effect, so that means your creature's going to be safe. But it's your creature dealing damage, so you got a creature on board, you can just use it as a kill spell. Instant speed. It's not too bad. Annihilate. Destroy target non-black creature. It can't be regenerated. And draw a card. 5 mana. It's a lot of mana, but it does redraw, and you can't be too picky about point removal when it comes to Artist Tribal. And the last instant is Divergent Transformations. This is basically just like what's it called? It's kind of like a Chaos Warp and a Transmogrify, or Pongify, not Pongify. Polymorph had a baby. It's an interesting card. It can put in some work. You use it on yourself if you want to get rid of some tokens, or you can get rid of a threat from your opponent, or two opponents, or one of each. Do whatever. It's got some good utility. And next up, we are onto the sorceries in the deck. First up, we got Wheel of Fate. It's the only wheel that's in Kev Walker. It's the only wheel Kev Walker's done. So it works, and it's slow, but it's a wheel effect, and that can be very helpful in this deck. You got a tutor here with Cruel Tutor. It's not a great tutor at all, and it's also a super expensive tutor. Or not super expensive anymore, but it used to be super expensive. But it will help. You can just go and grab whatever you really need at the time. It's solid. You got Sasuke Summons. Sasuke's Summons. It just creates some tokens. The second part's never going to matter, but it's just 3 mana to make two 1/1s, which can be helpful. Oh, my nose is itchy. These allergies are just crazy. Oh my god. Alright, next up we got Cerebral Eruption. I doubt any of you have ever played this card. Target opponent reveals a top card of his or her library. It deals damage equal to that card's converted mana cost to that player and each creature he or she controls. If a land card is revealed this way, return it to your hand. So it's like a really risky board wipe. One person board wipe. It can end up doing a ton, or it could do nothing. So it's super hit or miss, but it seemed fun, and I figured, why not? As a board wipe, there's not a lot of ways to do that in this, with these restrictions, so it seemed worthwhile. It's a cool card, too. I want to see this thing resolve. Next up, we've got Damnation. Definitely one of the best cards in the deck. This is a real board wipe, unlike Cerebral Eruption. This one will work. After that, we got Dread Return. You can have 3 tokens in play, sacrifice them to get something big out of your graveyard that you want back. Like your Patron of Nezumi. Seems okay. Next there's Promise of Power. You can draw cards or create a big token or do both. It's just some utility, and it seems decent in the deck. The utility is going to be nice. After that, we got Void. That's another one of those really weird board wipes. You can board wipe all creatures and artifacts of a certain CMC. So you can kind of just hose one player, or if you're trying to get rid of something in particular, you can just hose anything that happens to be the same CMC as it. It's cool. It can definitely put in some work, but it's one of the more risky board wipes. And the last sorcerer, we got Roar of the Worm. It's just a way to make 2 tokens, and they're pretty big, so that's not too shabby. And lastly, we got the lands. So there's only one non-basic land that's going in this deck, and that is Volrath Stronghold. So Kev Walker only has 3 non-basic lands that work inside the colors of Jund. And those are Volrath Stronghold, City of whatever it's called. Oh my god. Why did I not keep this up? Okay, maybe it's right here. It's City of Traders. City of Traders. And that doesn't seem that great inside Commander. That's like a really risky land there. And Field of the Dead. Originally, I was going to have Field of the Dead in the deck. And then I realized, you will never trigger Field of the Dead. Not worth it. So, you've got Jess, the Volrath Stronghold, which is fantastic in the deck. Lets you get back whatever you need from your graveyard. I love this card. It's great for this deck, too. Really good. And your basics. And so you have choices for your basics. You can go the pimp choice or the non-pimp choice. For swamps, we have the C27 swamp and the, what are these called? The European Land Program swamps. ELP swamps. For mountains, you've got C17, you've got Hour Devastation, you've got a really cool promo that's in, I don't even know what language that is, and you got the European lands. And then for forest, you've got Commander 2016 and the European lands. So you got a cheap version and a pimp version for each one. Personally, if I were to build this deck and I didn't really care about the price, I would definitely go with the European lands because getting all old border lands across the board would look really nice. And that is what I've got for Kev Walker Tribal. I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. Peace out, everybody.